Welcome back to another episode of the Commanders Draft Show. It's me, Deuce. We got DT, we got Kyle Smokers on the way. But today we have NFL college football analyst Ryan Fowler in the building. How are you doing today, sir? Round of applause, round of applause. How are you doing today, buddy?
Yeah, man, I'm doing well. Always ready to talk ball with you guys, and right around the corner is the draft, man. It's coming up soon, so excited to be here.
Yeah, very excited. But before we get into our questions, um, Ryan, how long have you been doing the going to the combine, the Senior Bowl, the Shrine Bowl?
2018 was my first combine. So was that 7-8 years now? Been heading
Yeah.
out to Indy. It's always fun heading down to even the Senior Bowl. You go to Mobile, you go to Indy, and in the last few drafts, I've been in Kansas City or Detroit. It's been a fun cycle. The last 3-4 years, sarcastically, but no, it's always good getting out there and seeing these guys live. But yeah, I've been in this thing since 2018.
We're going to invite you on the show one day because I am not pro combine. I have my reasons, and I fuss with the guys all the time about the combine. But looking at the three, right? The Senior Bowl, the Shrine Bowl, the combine. To you, can you kind of separate the three, or which one is more important than the other?
Yeah, I think Shrine, all credit to, first off, Eric Galco and then Jim Nagy, now the former executive director of the Senior Bowl, now, of course, the GM now with Oklahoma. Credit to all those guys and what they do as far as building their rosters, and credit also to their scouting staff. So those guys bust their asses all year long to get out across the country and find guys, not just at the Power 4 level, but guys at G5, guys everywhere across the country. But I think for me, of the three, the combine, unfortunately, guys, I wish we could say, hey, all the top prospects are going to go and show and do everything. That's not like it is anymore. When I look at the Senior Bowl, that personally is my favorite event to go to. And the reason why I say that is very rarely do you see a guy commit to the Senior Bowl, show up down there and say, I'm just going to do interviews. I'm just going to kind of hang out, wear a T-shirt and shorts. The Senior Bowl, if you commit to that game, you're showing up, you're strapping up, wearing your college helmet for the one last time, and you're going to compete your tail off for those 3 days of practice, usually. So that's kind of how I separate all those three. Mobile is my favorite to go down to every single year and just see these guys just flat out compete their butts off.
And Smoke has just entered. Smoke, this is Ryan. I don't know if you met him before, but Ryan, this is Smoke.
Nice to meet you, man. Nice to meet you.
What's up, Unc? I see you in the building. Trail South is in the building. Let's get to our questions. To me, my question to you, Ryan, is which player do you think has the biggest rise from the All-Star games to now? So like the Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl, Combine, and to now.
Yeah, I'll say a guy that was at Florida. It's a big-time program, but went to the Hula Bowl, and it was underrated. That's Chimere Dike.
I'll be forgetting about that one.
Yeah, Meredike. This pre-draft process, everybody knows, who's likely going to be top 50 guys. But you're looking for players farther down the board that can take advantage of every opportunity. Now, he comes out of Florida, an SEC program, so where he is underrated. He goes to the Hula Bowl, was flat out dominant. Not a single guy could cover him that entire week down there in Orlando. He gets an invite to the Senior Bowl. Was he dominant there? No, but he took care of business and did some things that impressed me, at least seeing him live and the way in which he moves and the nuances of the position. Then he gets an invite to the Combine, so he continues to take these steps up the ladder. And then he runs 4.3 in Indy, and that holds weight for a lot of teams out there. So I still don't think he's going to be a guy that you see in the top 4 rounds. He does look like a late 5, 6, 7 guy. But Chimere Dike, the receiver from Florida, I think is a guy, even for the Commanders, if they want another body at the position to come in and compete, that's probably a guy that's really taken advantage of an opportunity these last few months.
What do you think the deepest position is, especially for the Commanders when it comes to running back, wide receiver, tight end, defensive tackle, edge?
Yeah, I think the deepest overall position in this class, I know a lot of people say edge and interior guys, and that's really deep, but it's got to be running back for me. I remember with Kyle, we've had this conversation too, man, where I said, 30, 35 guys could hear their names called this year from the running back spot. It's just absolutely loaded. And I think what I personally appreciate most about the position is there's different body types, and guys like Cam Scatteraboo, Damian Martinez from Miami, Ollie Gordon for Oklahoma State, these bigger types of backs, they're probably going to move up boards a little bit because there are some of these scat back type of players with Woody Marks from USC or Brashard Smith from SMU, RJ Harvey, 5'9" from UCF. So there's just so many different body types and so many guys to where I know the Commanders only have 3 picks in the top 80, and they got to add more capital, and I think they will ultimately. But right now I have to say running back is probably the deepest position group of this class.
And I was looking at the wrong list. I looking at the list I sent you, so I think I took that question from Cal.
It's okay. I'll come up with another one.
Yeah, but we gonna go to Cal right after me. My last question is, are there any draftable kickers this year?
There are. I think.
Yeah, here we go. Round of applause. Round of applause.
I will say this though. Re-signing Zane, we'll see what happens there. I'm not saying they're bound to Zane Gonzalez. I'm not, but
right.
It's nice to have Jaden Daniels come out every single drive and seemingly put that thing within 40 yards. But if you need a 49-yarder or a 55, 57-yarder at the end of a half or in a tight divisional game, you got to have a guy that can at least line up and at least put it within that range. And I don't think Zane Gonzalez can do that. So to your question, Deuce, I think there's 2 guys. 1, Ryan Fitzgerald from Florida State. 2, Andre Borregales from Miami. Those 2 guys, I think, are the draftable guys.
I am an analyst now. I am a college football analyst because I said those are the only 2 guys that I would draft out of this whole draft was those 2 guys. And Ryan is my favorite. I am now college football analyst, so that's how I would like to be addressed. Cal, on you.
Yes, sir. Ryan, let's just say we have to put a gun to your head. And what is a because of this defensive line group altogether, it's very plentiful, right? There's a lot of depth in this draft class. But when you try to look at it before we get to the draft, what is a metric from the combine that you can kind of say to distance guys away from one another? One metric from the combine you can say kind of hints at what their potential is.
Yeah, I think I love seeing the short shuttle and the 3-cone. The guy's ability to accelerate, decelerate, change direction is a big thing. You got to be able to move, and that showcases some guys' footwork. But I think for me, specifically looking at guys in the front 7, whether you're an interior guy or the edge, is the 10-yard split. Can you get off the freaking ball? Do you have that explosiveness? And I think looking at even the combine, we saw James Pierce, look, he ran well. We expected him to run well. I still haven't seen him on tape as far as his ability to marriage himself as a football player. I want to see that consistency. I think his ceiling is through the roof if everything is married together. But I think is there one metric for me, Kyle, that I really look at even just a lot of positions is the 10-yard split specifically because that's the way you can get off the ball and explode through someone's face mask.
My man, absolutely love it. Now, let's say Washington at 29. There's a lot of everyone and their mother would like for Washington to be able to trade back and be able to get some more picks, obviously, with, like you said, only 3 in the top 80. But let's just say you had to stay put at 29 based on the depth of what the positions are. Who is a good fit for Washington at 29?
2 players, Kyle, that popped to mind. One is Donovan Ezeraku, the defensive end from Boston College. 2023 going into 2024, doing his report, I gave him a 3rd, and I said, I want to see him take that step in 2024, and he did in every facet. The ground game, his ability to bend, it was outstanding, and then he dominated. And I know I said this on other shows, but check out the Pittsburgh tape if you guys haven't seen it. 15 pressures, 4 sacks. The guy was everywhere. They tried to chip him with Gavin Bartholomew, who's one of the premier blocking tight ends in this class. They put running backs out there. They just tried to do everything to stop him, and they couldn't. And that pass rush productivity, I think, will translate early on to the NFL. So I think Donovan Ezeraku at 29. And then also I want to provide a little context, guys, on Nick Scourton from Texas A&M, because coming down from Purdue, where the production was obviously outstanding, they were asked first off at A&M, him and Shamar Stewart were, of course, the production. Everyone's like, where's the production for Shamar? They were asked to stop the run first at A&M. They were never asked to come down there and just pin their ears back and get after the quarterback. That's the reason why Walter Nolan transferred from Texas A&M to Ole Miss. He wanted to be a guy, hey, I'm a vertical guy. I'm not trying to two-gap, right? I'm not trying to two-gap and be a run defender right now. I'm not saying he can't do it. I like Walter Nolan a lot. Top 15 player for me in this class. But these guys were asked to set the edge, Scourton, Stewart, and their career at Texas A&M, which is why their numbers were down a little bit. And you're seeing Scourton now where, as you guys know, November, December, he was a guy in the top 15 a lot in mock drafts across the industry. Now he's probably in that second round, late first round bucket. I'm at 29 with a bigger physical type of player and say, hey, we got a guy like you that's Dorrance Armstrong, bigger kid. Dante Fowler's 255. Javonte Jean-Baptiste's got a similar frame as well. Nick Scourton at 29, I'm absolutely fine with that.
And the defensive lines at Texas A&M and Ole Miss, if you had to pick which one was better in production this year, it's
Oh,
hard
man.
to pick.
I'll say this. I'd go Ole Miss. I would go Ole Miss. But what's crazy about the Ole Miss edge group is their best guy, Suntarine Perkins, is coming out next year. So their best player wasn't even on their group that's coming out this year with the Newlands, Walter Nolan, JJ Pegueses of the world, which is actually crazy to say.
That's crazy.
All right, yeah. I have one. Sorry, that was like a little side bar there. But with Washington, taking Mikey Samerstill last year in the second round, who is a prospect that you could see Washington and also Brandon Coleman? Do you think that in that second to third round is where they could go offensive line, or do you think that wide receiver is prime spot for that location?
Yeah, I think they would like some verticality at the position, Kyle. I really think Jaden Higgins would be a dream in the second round. If that doesn't happen, however, I think my focus right now on day 2 is another corner, is that Quincy Riley from Louisville. I really like Dorian Strong from Virginia Tech. The ability to play man and run is on tape. Trey Amos from Ole Miss as well. Those types of guys, they want to draft another smaller guy that could play nickel, could play outside, like a Jacob Parrish from Kansas State or a Mac McWilliams from UCF. We'll see if those guys, I expect them to all come off the board in that day 2 bucket. But I just think looking overall at this draft, the receiver spot in the second round, Jaden Higgins is the dream as far as a bigger player. But again, on day 3, if they grab some more picks, which I really think we could all agree they need, a couple names. Dante Thornton Jr. from Tennessee, highly recruited kid, 6'5", ran 4.3 flat. He was at Oregon before going to Tennessee. The production's up and down, but again, Jaden Daniels, it's really a luxury to have a guy that elevates everybody. He elevates everybody around him. So Dante Thornton, Daquan Felton, another big kid from Virginia Tech, former Norfolk State transfer. And then Isaiah Nayer is a name that no one's talking about. Started out at Texas or Wyoming, really good there. Transferred to Texas, had one catch, I believe, in 1 year down there in Austin. Then went to Nebraska and a really good year this year with Dylan Raiola, who's a name to know in the next 2 years. So Isaiah Nayer on day 3, 6'3", highly recruited kid. The talent is there. So those are a couple guys, if you cannot get Jaden Higgins from Iowa State, that premier big physical player beside Tator McMillan on day 2.
DT, you up?
That's actually crazy because he already kind of answered the wide receiver thing, because I wanted to see, what wide receiver would complement Terry and Debo for the season. I've seen some of the couple of names but what do you think about a guy like Eric Aramayo from Stanford? I know a lot of people haven't talked about him lately.
Yeah, the Colorado tape back in 2023 where he absolutely dominated Travis Hunter. You can't use that term a lot, but it's tape that's going to matter for scouts and has mattered in some conversations. He blocks his tail off on the outside. Now, it's not Kelvin Harmon. I know we all remember that name out of NC State, but he's a physical type of football player that has to get better, though, in the nuances of his game. The separation scares me. The release package scares me a little bit. I think he plays extremely high at the line of scrimmage, meaning he just stands up straight, and the surface area of his chest against better corners, they're just going to attack that all day long. So just the small nuances of his game, I think Alec needs to work on, but I do think he's going to be a productive receiver, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 for an offense down the line.
Okay. Now, when you look at this draft process, you look at tons of players' tapes, tons of players across all colleges, D1, D2, even JUCO. What player that you've seen so far screams to you that it is an Adam Peters / Dan Quinn type of player?
It's a great question. I think there's a couple guys that come to mind right off the top of my head. One, I'll say 3 now that I'm thinking about it. It's a great question. Xavier Restrepo, wide receiver from Miami. He is not going to blow anybody away with his height or speed, just a really freaking good football player. Love Xavier Restrepo. Jordan Phillips, interior defensive lineman from Maryland. I stood at his podium session. Usually at the combine, I bounce around and grab quotes from different guys. When Jordan Phillips started talking and hearing who this guy was between the years and his makeup, I want that guy in my locker room for a long time. And he's a guy that's a former wrestler. Those guys winning in isolation, taking every rep personal. I love that about Jordan Phillips. And then Femi Oladejo from UCLA. He's a major riser in this process. He may even go in the back end of the first round as of right now. I would not be surprised. Just an immensely physical kid, smart as a whip, making the transition down to edge this year, coming back from off-ball backer. So UCLA athlete, a lot of the attention right now is on Carson Schwessinger, their linebacker that may also go in the first round. But those are really three guys. If I'm looking at Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, to where we work in that day 2, day 3 bucket, those players are absolutely on my radar.
And 6'3", 250 pounds, which is exactly what Adam Peters said he's looking for in an edge.
Yeah. Impressive kid.
And my last question for you is, for you personally, who do you think is the most slept on player as we get through this process heading into the 2025 draft?
Yeah, one guy I gave a first round grade to back in May, and I'm not changing from it, and that's Nick Martin, the linebacker from Oklahoma State. He's not the biggest guy in the world. He was hurt most of 2024. But when you see this kid move, and I know even Charles Davis has mentioned this on his shows and things like that. The 2023 Big 12 title game, Nick's first year ever starting at the position, from 15 yards of depth, accelerating and chasing down Xavier Worthy. I don't know many athletes in the world that can do that. And Nick is about as rocked up as you could be at the linebacker position, physical player. He's a modern day hybrid defender in the middle of a defense that he's not going to go in the first round. I promise you guys that right now. But as we work into the back end of the second round, third round type of player, you want some more athletes in the middle of your defense that flat out fly around, similarly to what they're going to get from Jordan McGee this year when healthy. Nick Martin's a guy I really, really like in this class.
Bravo, sir.
Yes, you have smoke.
All right, appreciate you, Ryan. Appreciate you, man. And what's up to my fellow people? Hey, what's up, man? Hey, quick question. Assuming we're staying at 29, You said we had 3 picks inside the top 80? Yes, which is true. Running back and defensive line group is deep. At 29, which way is the best way to go? D-line or running back, would you say?
Yeah, I think if I'm at 29 and Amari and Hampton is there, I'm grabbing Amari and Hampton. I think I'd be absolutely fine with that. Now, are they going to be moved by Caleb Johnson, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins? I just don't see that right now at 29. There's so many backs in this class. But I think at 29, if I stay there, I really am focused on edge. You got to get some guys that win isolated. I mean, you watched Joe Whitt's defense last year a lot. There's so many stunts, there's so many games to try to free up some guys. You just got to have someone that says, hey, he's a dog here, and I could beat that left tackle in isolation. So I'm focused on guys in the front 7 right now. If Adam does exactly stay at 29.
You stay at 29. Okay. Well, let me ask you this. If we get to 29 and a certain group of players are sitting there, good prospects, would you think about moving back from 29 to gain more capital, knowing 3 picks in the top 80? Things of that nature. No 4th round pick, no 5th round pick. Would you consider moving back from 29?
Yeah, 100%. It's a really good feeling, guys, sitting here and saying, look, I trust the football people in Washington to do the football jobs now, just scouting.
Round of applause for the new regime. The new regime. Round of applause.
Yeah, it's not just closing your eyes and throwing at the proverbial dartboard and saying, here's Jamin Davis. He's a military kid that's an athlete. Let's see if it works. Or Emmanuel Forbes, at 106 pounds soaking wet. So I think when you look at this scouting staff, I trust the guys to do what they need to do. And at 29, add some capital, move back. You can find guys in all 3 days of this draft. And as of right now, if I had to guess, guys, I do think Washington is going to entertain everything they can to trade back from 29 to add some more value on day 2 and day 3 in this class.
Okay. Last one from me. Shout out to Zach Ertz. We just re-signed him.
Yeah.
Right now, we only have 2 on the roster. Technically 3 with the Cole Turner news. But do you envision them if they were to move back, and you could give me a round as well to select another tight end to groom and things of that nature? Because the word on the street about Senate is, maybe he's not that guy right now, stuff like that. So is there a round that you would consider moving back and finessing the draft to move back to get another tight end?
Yeah, I'll say this. I love that Zach Ertz is back. That rapport with Jaden's definitely going to be there again. Love to have that. With Ben, he's interesting. A day 2 kid, you're not probably drafted him as being that H-back type of role. So hopefully he does take a step. But I think on day 3, I think in the 6th round, and you may not need to move if you just sit here right now and just stay with the amount of picks 6 that they have right now. If John Bates doesn't come back and you're looking for a similar guy, Jackson Hawes from Georgia Tech, it can fill those types of shoes from a John Bates. I think he's got an evolving skill set as a passer, which you guys saw, of course, in high leverage situations from John sometimes. 3rd and 5, 2nd and 9. John Bates is over the middle of the field, showing up once a month for as far as in space. But just a guy that flat out gets after it in the ground game. It could be that further extension of the line of scrimmage. Jackson Hall from Georgia Tech, former Yale transfer, is a guy on day 3. But I think 2 names, guys, to keep an eye on in the tight end class, a little bit of hybrid players. If Adam Peters wants some more juice at the position, maybe a player to groom as a tight end 3, Oronde Gadsden from Syracuse is a big power slot type of player, receiver and tight end background, and then Bryson Nesbitt from North Carolina. Both of those guys fit in that similar flex mold for an offense.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate that, Ryan. So I got 2 questions from the chat, and then I have one more question, and then you're going to be Adam Peters for 3 rounds for us.
Love it.
So that's going to be fun. We had a question from Hogside about Teddy Buchanan and Trey Wendig.
I love Trey Wendig. Yeah, Trey Wendig. I'll start with all good. Trey, the footwork is rough for me at times for him. I think he's probably in that late 7 PFA type of bucket, but I think he's a physical type of player. You know what you're going to get from the Big Ten. And then I'm so glad whoever asked that question, credit to you for knowing Teddy Buchanan from Cal, because I watched his tape back, did his eval in like August or September, and I said, you kind of just sit back and go, who the hell is this kid? Flying around making plays out there at Cal. And Teddy can play his butt off. I don't think he's going to be someone right now that comes in and is a green dot for a defense, but I think he's someone that has the athleticism to run hash to hash, physical, tackles his butt off, and someone right now to say, hey, could you fill that Michael Walker type of role, special teams, maybe develop into some snaps on defense? Absolutely. Teddy Buchanan's a good player, a really good player.
Is there any upside to Luke McCaffrey?
Yes, there is. I think the entire offensive staff is hopefully looking at Luke and saying, we're going to take some steps. Now, I know the separation score, some underlying analytics were really good for Luke this year, and he's never going to be a guy that says, hey, I'm not getting 7 targets. I'm going to whine on the sideline. That's just not going to be Luke McCaffrey. But I think there could be even some more versatility as far as getting him the ball in certain situations that he can improve on. But I will say this, he's a top 100 pick. I'm never going to shy away from competition, bring in guys to compete with him, because this is, at the end of the day, it's year 2, and we're in 2025 in this microwave society to where you got to come in and compete right away, no matter where you were drafted.
South had a question about kickers, but go back and watch the beginning of the show. I am now a college football analyst, so you can find your question at the beginning of the show. I'm gonna pull up this PFF simulator, but Ryan, I do want to ask. I think I asked you this last year. How do you look at needs versus now I can't even think of it.
Once
BPA.
BPA. Yeah, BPA.
Yeah. BPA.
Yeah, I think it differs definitely roster to roster. I think with like the Chiefs or the Eagles specifically, year after year, they've sat there at the back end of round 1 and said, we really like our roster. We've really shored up some people in free agency, and we can draft BPA. That's how they ended up with the Nolan Smith, and everybody was out on Nolan Smith after 1 year. We've seen how really that works out with a guy that ran 4.3 at his size and really entered the draft as one of the premier run defenders. So I think the BPA, that's you're really in a luxury spot to do that. I don't know if Washington is able to do that right now, considering the roster holes that they have, even though I am happy Bobby's back. I'm happy Zach Ertz is back, but the limited capital scares me a little bit, guys, but I think the depth in this class can make up for that. And I think the prioritization of needs, specifically with your first 2 or 3 picks, is where they're really going to nail on guys like they did last year with Jaden, with Mikey, with Johnny, and, of course, adding even a guy like Ben Sinnott, of course, to be a guy that's going to, just serve a lot of roles in this offense.
All right. Thank you for that. All right. So we're about to start it. Now I'm about to enter the draft, but once you enter the draft, because we're doing a manual, right? Yeah, I believe I'm doing a manual. Do you want to move the pick?
No, we'll stay right there, and we'll rock as it is.
Thank you. I do want to put the caveat in there. Last year, PFF had Jaden Daniels going in the 20s. So
Yeah,
I love PFF. I have a lot of respect for them. I'm just saying.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, a hint for you guys coming out here soon at the Draft Network. We got some. I'm not going to say when it's coming out, but I know everyone loved the MDM that we had years ago. It has got a brand new facelift, and I've worked
can't
on
wait.
Combine. It's real nice, and it's very real as far as where guys can go on draft day. So look out for that in the coming weeks.
Yes, please. If you remember, send that to. Yes, please. Yes, I appreciate it. All right, here we go. Well, I mean, you already answered this question, right? Like you said,
I did, yeah, but just for the sake of argument, we're passing Amari and Hampton. Could you go to edge for me? I like Nick Scourton there. Even Colston Loveland, obviously, you'd have to talk about as far as potential guy that you could bring into this offense. Yeah, I think right there, I'd probably go. I mean, I don't know if PFF. I don't know how their boards are sometimes wild, to be honest with you. I love the guys over there, Trevor. If you're watching, I love you, man. But you could search. If you could search if Don. I don't know if Ezaraku's even on there as far as in their top 60 players, or if
He might have been taken already.
He was already taken. Okay, then I'd probably go here. I'd go Nick Scourton from Texas A&M and make him a guy that's an immediate contributor for this defense.
Yeah, he went.
Yeah, he went to Atlanta.
Of course, he go to Atlanta. About time to pick an edge rusher.
Yeah. Who did you say, Ryan?
Scourton. I'll take Scourton.
There you go.
All right.
Do you usually use Cal?
That's where I differ. But go ahead, keep going. Keep going. Because I'm real big on talent. Like Amari and Hampton, man. Like, go ahead, keep going. Let's get to the second round. Keep going. I like this.
So in this bucket, I know offensive line is a question. I will say this. I know they do like Brandon Coleman at left tackle. Cosby missing half of the year, probably maybe potentially more next year, does scare me. I just don't think right now they're going to add a guy in the top 50 to play right in left tackle and swap Coleman to guard, or a guy's going to draft right guard right here. Now, is that they really like an Emory Jones or like a Marcus Bowe from Purdue? Is that versatility? I don't see that. So I think in the corner bucket, Darian Porter at the top there, 6'2", 6'3", 195, blew up the combine. He's a guy that's got to merit his little bit ability as a football player, plays really high. The feet are sometimes really slow for me. So if you could pull up the corners and see who they have there on the board, this is where my focus is, because right now Mike Sanders still is by far corner. Top corner. Oh, Benjamin Morrison. Absolutely. From Notre Dame. You guys don't like Benjamin Morrison?
I love Benjamin.
I love him. I love him.
Good.
I'm an Ohio State fan. All I can tell you, we played Morrison. That dude, he got lockdown ability. He's not the most athletic, but he's like a Notre Dame player, very tough and
really technical. Yeah, prospect fatigue is all over on him, which is a shame. And if he drops out of the first round and he's on the board in the second round for the Commanders, absolutely, I would
gotta grab him. I like it.
Absolutely. So right here, I'm definitely looking at, I could look at offensive line to add some guys, but again, I think they have plenty of money in free agency to add some players. They may even add a veteran stopgap. And Trent Scott is still on the roster. I know doesn't woo everybody. But if you could go to running back for me, I know I saw RJ at the top. I just want to see who's on the board here. So scroll down just a little bit. I really do like Damian Martinez. I like all those guys. You know what? Give me Damian Martinez here, actually. And with their rankings, I don't look at that stuff at all. I hope you guys don't either. Damian Martinez, he's not lasting until the 131st overall selection. It's just not going to happen. So I think in this class where you add an RB1 to come in right away and compete, I just needed more from Brian Robinson. I need a guy that also has some pop. The physicality is an RB1, but can also create with his footwork and open his own creases up. I don't see that from Brian Robinson right now. I still think he's talented, yes. And Austin Eckler's back, Chris Rodriguez is back. But I think adding a really dynamic playmaker in this offense to take the load off of Jaden Daniels just a little bit with his arm and his legs, I think Damian Martinez is a good pick there.
And I like this because, especially coming from you, Ryan, I know a lot of times when we see these mock drafts and we have these mock drafts, you kind of go by like you said, the rankings. And I think Kyle uses PFN more so or whatever, but you went in there like, I've watched all of these players. I don't care where they have them ranked. This is where this is my board. And I think a lot of times we miss that as fans. as what does the team board look like?
Yeah, and it's a great question, Deuce. And also in this class to where every single board in football, all 32 teams are going to be all over the place.
Yeah.
They're everywhere in this class. There could be some players. I was talking to a Chiefs scout a couple of days ago on a certain player. Most teams have 3rd, 4th round grades in a guy, and they got a 1st round grade on him. There's just so many differentiations and grades in this class to where, as I mentioned earlier, guys, like you just trust your football staff and trust your eyes is what you see. And there's also a ton of context with a lot of these guys to where I can't go to Shrine. I can't go to the Senior Bowl. Like for a Gray Zabel, for example, Gray's had a great pre-draft process, but I've watched 3-4 years of tape of him at North Dakota State and also saw him in live game reps at the Senior Bowl where I'm seeing things I'm not seeing a top 30, 40 pick. So I can't just boost guys up 50, 60 picks because they ran in a T-shirt and shorts well, or they had a couple nice reps, 8 or 9 reps at the Senior Bowl. So context with everything with that. And I'm just a guy that will always talk about I know not everybody has access to all the tape, but even just go on YouTube, just watch the guys compete a little bit and trust your eyes. And everyone has different evaluation. Everyone has their own opinion. And I love that about the sport. I love that about the industry. But just watch the tape and football players will separate themselves.
I love it. Smoke, anything? Any last questions for Ryan?
Yeah, say there are rumors in the air that we're shopping to air the edge via trade, you know what I mean, stuff like that. If that were to happen and we kept 29, which way would you more lean? Would you still lean at Nick Scrotton, or would you go more of Amarian Hampton at 29, or potentially move back to gain what you just lost for getting that edge out of, you know what I mean, Cincinnati?
Yeah. I mean, if they trade for Trey Hendrickson, right? I think that's the name in question. If they give up a 2 or a 3 and you can get him in the building, then that immediately takes away the needed edge at 29 for sure. I still think you do trade back, try to add more capital. But if Amarian Hampton, as I said earlier, if he's on the board at 29, personally, guys, he's my RB1 in this class. It's not Ashton Genty. It's Amarian Hampton. So if he's at 29 and you're comfortable with what you're doing, I know you guys remember the conversation a couple years ago. If Bijan Robinson's there at 16, would you take Bijan? Yes. Taking Bijan Robinson. And we can see how that works out. So Amarian Hampton at 29, I'm probably running up the card for that.
Yes, I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah.
DT.
Yeah. I think the last question I have for you, and it specifically talks about the D-line. We know last year we drafted Johnny Newton. He was the best player on the Commanders board. And how deep this defensive line class is, and we already see with the Jonathan Allen trade that people are looking at these D linemen like, why would I try to trade for someone like that? And I got these dogs already coming out. Would you be shocked if the Commanders get another defensive tackle probably high in the draft?
I'll say this: if they go high, that's fine. At 29, we'll see if a Kenneth Grant slips there. I don't think he will. That's really more of that Derek Harmon from Oregon, Omar Norman Lott from Tennessee. That's kind of that bucket of those guys. But I think on day 2, day 3, I cannot say enough good things about CJ West from Indiana, Jamari Caldwell from Oregon, and then also Aeneas Peebles from Virginia Tech. Those 3 guys, if any of those were to end up in a Commander's uniform, they're going to go somewhere, and I expect all those players to make an impact early on. You can never have enough beef, guys, within the middle. And I know there's a lot of attention, especially with what Jaden did with the offense to where he's a quarterback and Terry on the outside. Now we got Debo and who you got coming off the edge and the sexy type of positions. And I hate to say this, but as far as what the Eagles have done, football is always won in the trenches, offensive line and defensive line. And if you can't win there, you're just not going to ultimately reach your goal of a Super Bowl. So that's just kind of where I'm at with things.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle.
I just wanted to recap what Ryan picked with, first and foremost, Nick Scourton being 6'4", 285 pounds. I think the one takeaway I have from this defensive tackle and edge class is all these guys, especially the big guys like Jared Ivey and others, they can be moved inside and outside. And so when you talk about Joe Whitt's defense, we saw that with Daron Payne last year, them using him at the end, right? And so it kind of adds into your arsenal of what you can do defensively. And, we kind of talked about defensive tackle being possibly drafted high. That's where getting somebody like Nick Scourton with his body size could actually help you in those sort of scenarios. And then getting Benjamin Morrison, it's funny, we came into this year thinking secondary was such a weakness. to the point where now you have Marshawn Lattimore, you got Mikey Samerstone, and you add Benjamin Morrison. Now you're looking in years 2 to 3 as being your strength of your defense, which would really help everything out. And then adding another running back, I think everyone would be very happy to see, so just to be able to add some athletic ability in there and to take some weight off of Jaden Daniels' shoulder. So I just want to say hat tip to you, sir. I thought that was a very good pick.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And also a couple things on the Scourton, conversation as well. Looking also at 29, I wouldn't be shocked, guys. I want to mention this name in case it does happen. Keep an eye on Darius Alexander from Toledo. Small school kid, but as far as that versatility to slide up and down, I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations these last few weeks post-combine, just talking about this kid as far as how dominant he can be at 3, at 4I, at 5. You can stand him up, just a very versatile type of player. And then also in the running back class, if they don't want to get that RB1 type of physical ball carrier, 2 guys I just really like as far as expanding a playbook. Brashard Smith from SMU, former top 25 receiver recruit at Miami, went to SMU. Cannot say enough good things about him as far as a playbook extender. And then also Woody Marks from USC. I think he's an underrated player in this class that can really get after it in between the tackles and outside the tackles as well.
Woody Mock's a little older, right?
He is.
Like I still like him. I think he could be good off the pass game, man.
Yes.
Like a good complimentary back, stuff like that. So yeah, I like that, especially the first one you named. So yeah, I'm all in.
Thank you so much, Ryan. It's always a pleasure to have you on. You've been on here multiple times. You're a friend. You've been on there with Cal a few times. So we absolutely appreciate you for joining us. Let everyone know how they can follow you for those that don't.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you guys having me on. You guys do great work, man. I'm on X. If you don't follow me there already, at _Ryan Fowler. All my work is also at the Draft Network. More audio, written, video content as well. And then my personal podcast, Commanding the Huddle, comes out with new episodes once a week here in the off season. But I have a prospect interview series kicking off here this week. Well, I'll interview upwards of 80 to 90 guys in this class or more, whether we just interviews of me and them talking ball a little bit, their backgrounds. And that's on my podcast, Commanding the Huddle, that you can find on all podcast platforms.
Thank you so much. The Draft Network's Ryan Fowler. Again, round of applause.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. Take care, buddy. Yeah, man, that was good. That was good, man. What do you all think, man? Has anything kind of changed? I like how you went about the draft, and that kind of gives you a sense of how differently someone that has more information thinks about the draft.
Yeah.
Right? What y'all think?
So like with the Martinez pick, right? It not comparing, but like how everyone's board is different. My board different from Deuce board. We all got different boards, and I'm pretty sure these teams got different boards. So when he said that, my mind went to when we be doing our mock drafts as a team type stuff in the off season. And example, the team me and DT were on, I think we chose Mozzie Smith like 58, 59th pick. But when we get to the actual draft, he went 23. You know what I mean? So it's like everybody's board is different and things of that nature. And I use teleword, it's fluid. You know what I mean? Everybody's board fluid. So just because PFF had a Martinez ranked at a certain, number, doesn't mean that these GMs are going to have these guys ranked at the same thing. But yeah, I totally agree with the way he did draft though. If a Benjamin Morrison falls to 61, oh man, sign me up all day.
I'm running that card. I'm being a Catholic.
Sign me up all day, man. Take your time, ice up, son. Get healthy because this is for the long haul, man. At 61, this guy has literally a first round grade on him, man, and to have him fall that far, hey man, I appreciate it. Those are
that's the equivalent of the Newton pick last year.
Yes, totally.
Yeah. So. I think for, listen to Ryan, definitely a great listen for everybody. It just brings, like you said, a different perspective from just not only being a fan, but someone who's actually working within buildings and meeting these guys and understanding what our team needs and things of that nature. When we go through this draft process, I also think a lot of times we always have like those favorite guys we want to draft at those positions, but teams like the Commanders or maybe somebody else, they're not probably as high on those guys as we are. So I know a lot of people are like, when he took Martinez, but he's been there and watched Martinez through the draft process. If you're looking on Twitter and stuff, Martinez's name has been popping up consistently. And I think for this thing, like what we just did tonight, it shows us that like players that we never heard of or we watch, we're probably like, okay, he's a solid player, but they might match more than what you expect when they can come to your team and do things differently.
You don't need to be watching tape then, Sal.
That's hysterical.
You better hope the commentators are good.
Right.
What about you, Kyle?
I respect Ryan a lot, and the crazy thing about Ryan is you could ask him any question about the draft, and he'd be able to rip some names off for you. And he knows these guys very, very well. Like you guys said, he does the in-person interviews. He gets to know the people around the league and kind of knows the inner workings of things. And I trust what he's saying wholeheartedly. I think that what he did in those first 3 picks is answering a call that Washington truly needs. And being able, because you're talking about the division, you got CeeDee Lamb, you got AJ Brown, you got Devontae Smith, you got Malik Neighbors. Having a quality cornerback group in case of emergency, in case of those injuries come up, you need to be able to rely on those sort of guys. And so I love the way that he kind of built that out for Washington, especially with Scourton, because that's a big dude, strong guy that was on, and being able to set the edge in the run, and that being predominantly number 1. Because you're going to look at the stat sheet and say he only had 1.5 sacks this year. Obviously, Texas A&M was telling them to stop the run. That's all you got to worry about. But with Scourton, it's like when you watch it, they're still creating pressure. Him and Shamar Stewart are getting after the quarterback. They're just not getting that stat number. And at the end of the day, if you're creating those hurried throws, what do you think that means? That typically means it's a ball that's going to be up in the air and your corners can go make a play on it. And that's where guys like Benjamin Morrison come into play and being able to get the ball for you.
Let's take a few minutes and kind of switch from the draft. Of course, we don't have enough time to go edge, so we'll move that to next week. But Kyle, as far as free agency is, right? We've seen some of the moves that's already been had. We brought back, some of our guys. I think a lot of us is looking for Terry and Chin deal, but I just want to just talk about Chin real quick. Do you think Chin is a lock to come back?
I'm not 100% sure because this is the seesaw effect, because this is why it's great when you're going with the mindset of the 1-year contracts, right? As a GM, you're prove it deal. Prove it to me and we'll give you that big contract, of course. But the issue being is when you do that in abundance with a lot of these contracts, when you make it to the NFC Championship game, now that's kind of creating a problem for you because these guys, their price has now elevated because of what they did for you in 1 year. So now you have to kind of deal the seesaw effect of saying, do I want to upgrade that position and possibly lose out on the same success I had last year? Right? Because it's almost like chemistry where you're putting the ingredients together to be able to come up with a formula, right? Well, if the new one maybe it's not as potent as the one you had before. And that's the kind of risk that you're running into. So with Jeremy Chin, is his asking price too much to the point where they're saying, we have Simmons as the staff here. I've heard the name Trevor Morig come up, who was from TCU, was in Las Vegas, of course. And Simmons coming from there would know him very well. And a lot of people like Coach Rose on Twitter said, that's a guy that you plug and play, one of the best tackling safeties you could find. And that would be a good recipe for you. So I'm not sure if it's a lock. I would love to see Jeremy back because Jeremy brought a physicality to this defense that was obviously needed. And that height, that kind of physical presence is not something that you typically get all the time from a safety. But I would hope that he would be willing to do a team-friendly deal to come and continue to build here of what is already here.
Smoke.
Hey, yeah, like you got to remember, Chin had a market last season. I thought it was word that Steelers offered him.
Yep.
But he wanted to come play for DQ. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure with what he put out there on film last year, helped turn his defense around. His market's going to be out there, and there are guys that's familiar with other guys on coaching staff or via front office. You know, I mean, there are a couple guys out there that I feel like could literally get signed and walk in and start day one, and we won't really have a question about it. So I think they're allowing Chen. I more want to talk about when we get to it or whatever. We got time. This Fowler tweets, man. Like,
I'm not.
I don't know if he's. Are you saying? But like, Deuce, do you think we're disrespecting them, or the market is disrespecting him as far as him talking to other teams?
It got to be the market, right? Like he, you know, I'm sure when we had the conversation, I mean, when they had the conversation, I think they had a conversation. All the guys, they probably figure out who wants to test the market and who doesn't, and he probably wanted to test the market, which is fair. He got 11.5 sacks, but bro, you're a 1-year dude for the rest of your career, right? And then your sacks were, like Trail called them, they were empty. When I needed a stop on 3rd and 9, you didn't get it for me. But when
he got a personal foul.
Yeah, right. But when I'm up 2 scores and it's 3rd and 12, you get it for me. That's empty to me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Hey, that's true. That is true right there. That's a good way. Like for example, Trey Hendrickson, 17.5 sacks. How many of them were meaningful?
I mean,
the defense was god awful.
The way that defense play, he had to get sacks.
But I'm saying, like, but it didn't result into wins though. They ended up 9-8, just like they did the previous season with a backup quarterback. So my
they game plan,
but is that his game?
But they game plan against him though.
Yeah,
we wasn't like Fowler not getting chipped. Who chipping him? They ain't chipping and double teaming him. Like if your edge rusher out of 50 snaps, if he could take 2 people 35 of those snaps, I don't need no sacks because he's like done enough.
Yeah.
I could count on one hand how many times it was a 3rd and 8, 2nd and 12, and Fowler hits the quarterback helmet, personal foul, whatever it is.
I ain't gonna lie, I said it to you. I don't know if you're talking about me, Henspo.
Things of that nature. My fault. My fault, y'all.
Oh man.
Remember, I used to be that in spaces all the time. Me and Slim was things of that nature.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this to your point, dude. So what you said, I think you bring up a really good point about the game planning of the edge rusher. I think going back to our game versus Cleveland is a very good example of it, because going into it, we all said you have to limit Myles Garrett. You have to limit Myles Garrett, and we made sure that we game planned to take him out, and we did. Right. And of course, that's one thing. But Zadarius Smith also went off in that game against us, right? Which obviously opened up things for him. But you're a Cleveland fan, you're like, okay, that's okay, because they game planned for it, so to speak. Whereas with Dante Fowler, is any offense, no disrespect to him, he did really well for us, but is any offense game planning to take Dante out of the equation, right? And that's like the big difference in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and Glenn, I don't like. I think empty is not like they don't matter.
Right.
But when you're up, the edge rusher knows you're going to pass the football, right? So there's no reason for like he's straight. Only thing on my mind is rushing the passer. Like he's not thinking about setting the edge, stopping the run, none of that, right? So that's kind of like a disadvantage, right? But when I need the ball and it's 3rd and 12 and I need the ball back in order to go up, where are you? You know what I mean? Like he just does not show up in that sense. And yes, Poster King, I mean, he did have some great reps against Trey. He did. He also had a whole lot of help too.
Yeah.
Right? Like it was Chips Ahoy a lot. You know what I'm saying? So we just got to see it from both angles. Go ahead, DT. Chen, and if you want to go with Fowler.
Yeah, so with the Chen thing, I definitely agree with Kyle's point. When you have a bunch of players that automatically go on a team that was pick 6 Dante, that was Buzz's best play of the season.
It was. That was an incredible play, dude.
It was incredible.
But when you have all these guys that sign 1-year deals trying to prove it, and then they go from a 3 to 4 win team to NFC Championship, a lot of these guys are going to have the film and tape on them. Now, I will think the only consideration for Chen to come back is perfectly the fit of him being in a AP's and on DQ's defense, because that was the biggest problem with him in Carolina. After his rookie year, he really didn't have any type of continuity between defenses, being misplaced on the defense. He comes over here, he has a role, they understand how to use him. I'm not sure if these other teams outside of what Joe Whitt and them did for him this year, they can do the exact same thing, replicate that success. So preferably, I definitely want Chin to come back, but I also know, like dudes always keep saying, Jumanji out there too. But both of them, I think, can coexist as well. But the whole Dante Fowler thing, look, he was our best guy in terms of getting sacks, but he wasn't the best defender overall. I mean, run defense was very bad. You can find a situational pass rusher, and there's plenty of guys that's going to hit this free agency as right now. Some of them are 25, some of them have some experience and stuff like that. So I'm not really impressed about the whole thing. Yeah, he's tweeting things like that, but like, it's the market, man. Like, you're not a Myles Garrett. You're not a Trey
That's
Hendrickson.
not gonna help
like,
him either.
None of these guys.
It's not gonna help him. Like,
it's unfortunate because he's a DQ guy. Like, he loves DQ.
You gotta relax. Like, I want him back. Like, I think he will be more efficient as a pass rush specialist. Right? I think that's, because a lot of those games, fourth quarter, that dude just was like, he was barely getting back to the huddle or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because that running game, like, he's bad against the run, bro.
Yeah, dude, like for me, like, I don't care about the tweets. Like, I want a player to be able to voice their frustration publicly if they want to, right? Like, we're all human. Yeah. You need that out. I would rather you do it from your normal account than from like a burner, right? That people are able to like KD, you know what I mean? Like, I want you to be able to voice, but like at the same time, I love how passionate Dante is about it, because if Dante really did put all that into the season, you got 11.5, you worked your ass off for that. In years past, we had a collection of just individuals on this football team where they just wanted to collect a check and then go home and go to the club or whatever. Obviously, Dante is invested into this. My whole point is, like, you have to understand the reality of the situation, and this draft class being so heavy with edge and with DTs, even though you did really, really well, you're not going to be getting the respect that you typically want or you would rather have, right? So it's going to be, you have to be realistic about it. And what's the best situation for you to succeed in continuing to play football? Because we all know that in the NFL, it is that the sand glass and the hourglass. It's the time is running out. And so the more time you have the ability to do it, that's the best place. And so, look, I know you want more money. You deserve more money. I get it. But the reality of the situation is there's a lot of guys that are thinking the same.
Yeah. My question to you guys, though, is how often does a situational pass rusher get a big exclusive payday?
I mean, I'm like, look at Bryce Huff. Bryce Huff was situational with the Jets. Yeah. And he signed a bigger deal and didn't pan out this season. So, I don't know, man. It rarely happens. It rarely happens.
I can understand his frustration if he's like comparing himself to like Dorrance Armstrong, right? Who was brought in from Dallas, didn't produce as much as Dante Fowler. And they brought in Jalen Holmes from the Jets, right? Who actually had a couple sacks for us, was a big dude that probably needed to be better at being able to set the edge and everything like that. So I can understand. Yeah, I can understand his frustration. It's just we want you to stay. Just be happy,
How old is he?
Dante, I think he's got to be close to 30 at this point.
I think he is 30.
How old is Huff?
Huff's about 25, 26.
I mean, that could be it. I mean, like, even Dorrance, it's like, I mean, like, Fowler, where have you been? Like,
now that I think about it, Dorrance
did he ever get like that second contract, or is it because the last 2-3 years for sure? I know it's been 1-year deals, right?
Yeah, especially with Dallas.
Dorrance 27.
And with the Rams, it was a 1-year deal, right? You got the Rams that year. I think that was a 1-year deal. So, like, I mean, I don't know, man. I get it though. All right, last topic.
He's 30. He's 30.
Yeah, he is
on the
30.
nose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
So
31
like,
in
I
August.
mean, you been getting 1 years like the last few years. So I don't know, man. Cal.
He was traded to the Rams.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But was he on the last year of his deal when he was traded to him?
He was in the fourth, going into the fourth year.
Headed
Well,
to
no,
his
this
last
was
year deal.
actually the third year. He
Yeah.
got traded in his third year
Yep.
Okay.
to the Rams, and then the Rams had him for the fourth year. They didn't pick up the fifth year option, look like, because he went on to play with Atlanta. in
Signed
his
a
fifth
3-year,
season.
$48 million contract.
With
Yeah.
Atlanta.
Yep.
Mhm.
So that's the Huff deal right there, Smoke.
Yep, that's true. And then only
Like,
played
that's the
2 of
Huff deal
those
right
3. Played
Yeah,
only 2 of
so
those 3. So that third year was probably void. He went and signed with Dallas for 2. Now with us.
I don't know, man. All right, so we will talk about this more as the week go on. Cal, I think we have a wide receiver 1. I think we have a wide receiver 3, gadget guy. I think we have a wide receiver 4, the 2-year rookie. Kaz Allen, I don't know what he is, but whatever. Diami,
Oops, sorry, Bo.
if you had if you had the choice, are you going with Diami Brown or Darius Slayton?
Oh, I go with Diami. I go with Diami. I mean, like, no disrespect to anybody that wants Darius Slayton here. I mean, I think Darius Slayton is a very good wide receiver and everything. But Diami was asked to step up in a big way and in a very crucial time, and he did it. And look, obviously you're not supposed to just be handed things, but I think that for somebody to really put themselves out there in that situation and to succeed for you, that's where I'd put my stock in, where you already know that he runs well with the quarterback in the offense that you do have. Obviously, he was used a lot like how Debo is going to be used this year, but I still think Diami deep down the field, what he showed in that Detroit game is exactly why you'd want to bring him back and what he's able and what he's capable of. You'd like for him to be able to, to be more productive throughout the season and everything. But when the games mattered the most, he showed up. And I think that this is the time when Diami's game is actually going to increase a little bit. But you could use the previous years to be able to keep that money down and to be able to say, we want you back. We love you. You keep working hard and you can do well for us. And that's not somebody that's going to be like pissed off by not getting a lot of snaps and everything like that. I'd rather go with homegrown than free agency any day of the week. And as a personal thing, I think you build the farm and you sell the crops. You don't go buy crops to bring in my personal opinion. And that's what I'm trying to grow here. And that's why I would personally go with Diami. Look, Darius Slayton is good. He's a very good, talented guy. Maybe he's going to be brought here. But I would go with Brown.
Where you at?
Hey, it's my bad. You
Go ahead,
gonna follow
Smoke.
me? All right, so you say Darius Slayton or Diami. 3-year age gap, right? 3-year age gap. We know Darius Slayton has played that 1/2 role with the blue people, in the past and things of that nature. So he's capable of getting you 700-800 yards and stuff like that. It's nasty because I'm actually looking at the available free agents, and Diami is included in this. And for Darius Slayton to be 28, if you're 29, 30, I really ain't got a need for you. So that's the Stephon Diggs, the Keenan Allen, the Amari Coopers. The only one I would say is Chris Godwin, but I think he's going to cost too much because this is a big difference between the Chris Godwin contract and the Darius Slayton contract. There's a big difference between the Chris Godwin contract and the Diami Brown contract. It's a huge difference. And that's a 4 to 5 year gap between Chris Godwin and Diami. So I think I may lean towards Diami, the familiarity. He know what they expected. We know what to expect out of him. And I feel like Diami, man, the more opportunity he gets, he can become a guy. I think people just see it, not saying it's lazy to say, Darius Slayton had 700 yards with Daniel Jones, but he was operating out of a number 1/2 role. right now, yes, we're saying a number 2 receiver, but you still got Terry, you still got Zach, you still got, you know what I mean, Debo, things of that nature. How many targets will that number 2 get? So I'm saying, you know, give me Miami and draft a guy somewhere. You know what I mean? That's just how I'm looking at it. You know what I mean? Over Darius Slayton. But he's 28. Everybody else is 30, 31, 32 years old, man. And that's just my bad, Kyle. Go ahead, Kyle.
No, I wasn't trying to cut you off. I just wanted to add to it. Look, all I'm saying is if I had to choose between the two, okay, like if my preference would be going through the draft, to be honest with you, I want to build the farm and allow us to continue. But we also have to think about the fact of what this offense did last year and how many rotating parts we have coming into this year. You traded for Debo. That's a new face that's going to be in here. You're possibly losing out on John Bates, right? We brought back Zach Ertz. With all those new faces, do you want to add another into it? And obviously, I trust Jaden Daniels being able to cook with whatever he's given, of course. But I would love to see him be able to work with these guys 2 years in a row. I would really love to see what they're capable of, because in Diami's case, it's almost like he's been trying to find that pace. He's been trying to find that production for himself. And at the very end is when you get it. And that's why I'm saying at that very end a little bit, yes, it could be fool's gold trail, but this at the end all be all, that could be the jumping point for him coming back to the same quarterback. And that's what I want to press on. I don't want to overpay for Diami. If I'm going to be the case between the two, I'm going to try to get that number down as much as I can.
Hey, let me say this, right? To the last comment that was like he had 4 years. Let me ask the panel this. Go back to the years of Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, for the 2 years we had them with Terry, right? Where would Darius Slayton fit at in that room? Would he be a 2? Would he be a 3? Or would he be a 4? Curtis, that was Curtis, Jahan.
I mean, they probably don't go Jahan if they got a younger Slayton.
So if a Slayton was there and Diami was here, it would be a battle for that number 3 between Jahan, well Terry, Jahan, and then Darius and Diami, right?
No, I'm just saying if
you meant Curtis. You meant Curtis.
No. If we have that younger slate, we probably don't go Jahan in that round.
Okay, so we would still have Curtis though, right?
Yeah, probably more than like. I mean, it depends. Like they was always looking for a number 2. I never thought Curtis Samuel was a number 2 either.
Yeah, so Curtis is like what we got with Debo as far as
exactly
acquiring them. He's that gadget guy that, you know what I mean? I don't like to use that, but he's a utility knife. He's the utility knife. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. And so yeah.
Now look, man, like I like the I mean, we've been bro.
Nico, come on, man.
so like I think when we use this regime, right? We use this regime. This regime saw him for a whole spring and a whole summer. And instead of making him the number 2 and picking up Noah Brown to add him, they automatically made Noah Brown number 2, right?
Yeah.
So throughout the season, you'll see flashes of Diami. You'll see flashes of Oz, right? It's like they show up one game, the other one show up the next game. Flip-flop. Oz had more production for sure. But then in the playoff games, he exploded. You know what I mean? Like he had those 2 great playoff games. Hence, yes, the secondaries were hurt. So not like he's playing against top-end talent. But then the NFC Championship game came. And like you say, Kyle, when you needed him, we wanted him to show up, and he gets the big fumble.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So now we have all of that. My question, not to you all, but how much do they really love Diami Brown?
No, you're absolutely
because like my thing is, I don't know if we're gonna get a number 2 this year. A true number 2.
You're 100% right, and that's why, like, just for the question, I wanted to answer it and say Diami, because I want this to be brought back to the case of what we saw last year and what they were, like you said, they were able to go down each and every avenue. Like somebody new was showing up every week for Washington throughout the season, right? Like that recipe worked. And that's what I want to be able to retain. The question is the price point. I'm naturally very frugal. I want to bring that number down as little as I possibly can.
Yeah.
I think Diami has as much incentive to come back more so than Washington does, right?
Mhm.
And so that's why I want to get that number down for it. With Diami, I know that he's had ample opportunities and he did well last season with what he had, but I think that he had to earn it. And look, they were very tough last year. They came in and said, Jahan Dotson, you want to block? You're gone. You're
Right.
out of here. And so, like, obviously he responded to it by the end of the year. And it's almost like, let's say you're a manager of a restaurant and you're asking a guy to do his job, and like you're requesting it. And obviously it takes a whole month. And at the end of the month, you're deciding if you want to keep him or not. And he starts doing what you want him to do. Are you going to say, well, you only started listening to me at the end, so I'm going to cut ties with you? Or are you going to go down the new route of hiring somebody new and having to go through this whole process all over again? And that's kind of my point with this, is like, I want to continue that trend. And it just, not the safety of it, but I want to be able to continue what we've had. And I think that the deep downfield ability was not something that was evident early on in the year last season. And the fact that boomed at the end of it is something where you could add multiple knives to this offense to be able to attack you downfield. Debo from underneath and Diami showcasing to you that not only can he do the deep stuff, but he showed you the intermediate stuff as well. He was running the slants, he was running the ins, the outs, the hitches, and he was doing a good job. It's the price point at the end of the
price
day.
point for me too. Like, I wouldn't mind having him back, but it's absolutely not. And I think those playoff games is going to push his market up. I think Tutu Atwell is a good comp to look at him also.
Yeah.
To see the numbers. And Tutu numbers wasn't that much better. Like, let's not pretend like his numbers were that much better overall. I mean, even Oz had better numbers than both of them, I think, or close to it, right? So, I mean, what Oz gonna want? So, but to your point, why I think this whole Diamond thing is so strange and so divided is the same way you kind of look at, he starts showing up at the end, so I'm going to see if this can continue. The flip side could be like, oh, you only doing this because your time almost up.
Right.
So I don't know, man. It's going. I think the Army thing might break the fan base.
I wouldn't say like, I think you said something earlier about like, do they like him or whatever. I wouldn't say that, because I could go back to week 18 against the Cowboys where he threw that pass to when he threw that ball to OZ, and OZ dropped it. Kliff came back to Diami like 2 or 3 straight plays. Like, I'm gonna get you a screen because that was supposed to be a touchdown, and that shows me that.
But they ain't had nobody else though.
Yeah.
So I mean,
they didn't.
Yeah, and I don't mean to, like, they don't think he's a good player or he could be a good player. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying, like, do they love him enough to get in a bidding war to get up to $15-16 million?
Oh no! I don't even think no. If somebody paid Diami that, hey man, that's go get it. Go get that bag, bro.
Right.
Go get it. You know what I mean? Sorry,
DT. The only thing left I'll say is, like, Washington is in the driver's seat here. They can literally sit back and say, look, man, we want you back. You perform well, but the price point that's being requested is not something that we're comfortable with. We want you back here to add back to the equation, but that price point needs to come down. And if I had to choose the two, is my only point.
They said Fowler gonna be like Junior Gillette.
This is crazy.
Go ahead, TT.
So, I mean, the whole Diami thing, like, I don't have a problem if Diami come back.
Yeah.
But we know what the market is already looking like with some of the contracts we're seeing so far. So if Diami goes and finds a deal that he couldn't get in Washington, I'm going to wish him good luck and still have a solid career. I think he's done great for having Kliff to actually be utilized this year. But I also think when I look at Darius Slayton, he has been far more consistent in his career. And he also was a player that didn't have a quarterback. So I probably would go with a guy that has more production and has the same skill set as Diami Brown, just 3 years older. And you sign him and you really don't lose nothing. I also think we're kind of, in my opinion, underrating what Noah Brown was doing when he was playing for us. Like, this guy, he was on pace for 700 yards
Just don't know
in the
about
offense.
injury.
So that would be another guy I would like to sign back.
We just don't know about that injury, man. Dan made it seem like it was gonna be over. Pray for him and this. So I haven't heard nothing yet. We just got to see what that's gonna look like. But this is a good question right here, Smoke. Like looking at 2-2 deal, I think Slayton is. I mean, based off production, I think 10 million is going to be his number. Where's Diami number going to be?
Yeah, I mean he's sitting at 6 right now. Well, he just got paid like $6 million as far as Darius Slayton. I think 10 may be his starting mark. But I don't want. It's only a handful of teams out here, y'all, that has 2 guys that's at the receiver position getting over 1,000 yards a season. It's only a handful, if that many. I don't even think it's that many. But if it is over 10 million, you can't sit up there and say, "Oh, like production or whatever." This is the market, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's.
What Diami say? What Diami say?
I don't think
got
that's
a screenshot.
1,000
Diami quote tweeted Dante Fowler with the exclamation point.
No, he did. For real? Oh,
yep.
God, here we go.
I'll put it in the chat.
Well,
people were making fun of Diami when he was posting those workout videos last offseason.
Them tones look horrible.
Well, we got receipts.
Them tones look horrible. Now he boxing with his not keeping that hand up. He get knocked out.
Well, I think the one quote that we can all look back to is what Kliff Kingsbury actually said about Diami at the end of the presser, where he said that like they requested a lot out of him, and it was like towards the end that he really started to get going. I would imagine that like they're in the driver's seat. That's it. And so I would rather homegrown than going and shopping from a division rival, to be perfectly honest with you.
I don't want nobody from the blue people anymore.
I know. I don't like them.
The Martavius Bryant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we gonna end the show on that one, truth be told. That's it. This upcoming week, man, is gonna be jam packed this upcoming week. Starting tomorrow, 12 o'clock, I think. Yeah, starting tomorrow, 12 o'clock. 12, we got a show 12 to 4, all free agency all week. 12 to 4 tomorrow, 8 to 12 tomorrow, 5 to 7 Tuesday, all week long. Have all types of guests coming on, all types of fans coming on. We're gonna put out something probably in the morning or whatever. Go ahead, Kyle.
I just wanted to say one thing. Last year we did this with Adam Aniba, and I was messaging him with, like, I was thinking about him the other day, just reaching out to him and said, I hope everything is all right. I hope you're doing well. Because obviously he left everything, but just keep Adam and his family in your prayers, guys.
Yes.
I wish he was still here with us, of course, but we respect his decision to be able to take care of his family. But, just pray for Adam and reach out to him if you can. Just make sure that, you're still thinking about him because, we certainly do miss him on the show.
Most definitely, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. It was tough what he had to go through this last few years. And he just decided to just kind of take a break and just kind of raise his kids. He's a single dad now.
Yeah.
So, he put all of the football stuff to the side. So, but he always has a home here for sure. So if you know Adam, reach out to him. Actually, we did on his behalf. We gonna run that back again this year. The draft challenge. I forgot what we call it. We did that on his behalf, gave him all the proceeds. So absolutely shout out to Adam. Smoke. Oh yeah, Smoke gonna be in the building Wednesday? Tuesday? One of them days.
Hey, man, appreciate it, man. Great show today. Good insight. You know what I mean? We think we figured that AP out, but we quite haven't yet. But appreciate Ryan Fowler coming on and stuff like that. So hey, let's keep him going.
Kyle, what you got this week?
Just watch out for I'm probably going to be doing these draft evals and putting some more film out there as much as I can on these defensive tackles and edge guys. I will tell you right now, watch out for my boy from the defensive tackles. Where is it? Jared Harrison Hunt from SMU, 6'4", 294 pounds. I absolutely love this kid. And as a late round prospect, I think that's somebody you could fit in and feel very comfortable with. Just keep a lookout for the film breakdowns on Twitter and the Burgundy Zone on Sundays.
D2.
Man, look, y'all know I'm gonna be up here more than likely. Command Time will probably be pushing for a new date this week. Some personal news. Wishing luck for my girlfriend. She's gonna be starting out her travel assignment in Illinois. She's gonna be working as a phlebotomist for 13 weeks. So, Command Time, Ins and Out D podcast stuff will be coming out this week. Also, be hopping on not Ins and Out, my fault. Redzone In the Lab when I have time outside of school.
You straight put me on the backbone. Put the girl first, school first. It's all good though. Hey, Smoke. I don't know if you saw the new intro. Let me show it to you real quick.
That's phenomenal.
Cool, right?
That's dope. That's dope right there. I like that.
Appreciate
Good
your
working,
time. We
bro.
know your time is very valuable for that. For spending it with us, we absolutely appreciate it. Remember, do it because you love it, not because it loves you. One beat, one sound, one heart, one love.